From time to time, usually coming back from a break, or maybe after exams, I get very reflective. I ask myself, why am I doing this? By this, I mean school. Or more importantly, why do I try in school? Maybe it's to be successful, to get a job, to go to university. But then I ask myself, what if no one else went to school? Would I still do it? Now, no, I'm not here to rant about how school supposedly turns us all into test-taking zombies, but this question got me thinking about why we do certain things. After all, it's impossible to do something based solely on motivations, which have no payoff for many years. When was the last time you studied for a math test so you could get a good job after university? Although education and qualifications may be one of the reasons to go to school, it isn't by any stretch the only one. It can't be. There isn't any way that we'd be able to sustain our own motivations with this alone. We need to be striving for something in the near future with a more immediate payoff. I think that this more immediate reason, at least for the most part, is competition. We as students are immersed in an environment surrounded by peers, all working towards the same goals. We're all trying to get the best grades and the best extracurriculars. Competition is what pushes us. Forgive me for using math tests as an example again, but the fact of the matter is you don't study for them just because you think it will lead you towards your goals. You study for them because that's what those around you are. You work hard because if you don't, you'll be at the bottom. You'll fail. And not just your math tests, but you'll fall in the implicit rankings we create to gauge each other's performance. You won't just become a failure, but your peers will view you as such too. Equally so, we compete to gain first, to be considered the best amongst our peers. Competition stretches our imagination of what we think is possible. When we see someone who is so much better than us at something, their performance becomes a milestone, a goal that we can strive towards and one day reach. If competition is our true motivation for the short term, then what in fact motivates us is a high score, however we wish to define that. But as Peter Thiel says in his book, 0 to 1, these metrics will never fully capture one's actual ability. Okay, so big deal. We all know that grades aren't everything. The reason this matters is because competition extends to many more things. In fact, it is most important to notice competition in areas without such clearly cut metrics. School and grades work fine as an example, but when this idea of competition matters most is when we don't realize that we're actually competing. It matters most when there aren't any clearly defined metrics, when we create our own implicit limits to measure each other's ability instead. When I first entered high school, I thought that grades were everything. That's what I heard from those around me and from my parents. So all I did that year was study. Then in grade 10, I looked around and saw people around me joining clubs and becoming executives. So I too tried out for a bunch of executive positions and ended up with none of them. Then I thought, maybe I just need to try harder. So that's what I did for the rest of grade 10 and the beginning of grade 11. And I still came up with nothing. But then I took a minute to think about it. I realized that maybe the reason I was so unsuccessful is because I didn't actually care about these things. I wasn't passionate about these clubs. I was only joining them because that's what those around me were doing. I was sucked into this chase of executive positions without even noticing it. There were no obvious scores, so it didn't occur to me that what in fact I was doing was competing, pursuing the same goals as everyone else. I wanted and still want to be successful. But not until I began grade 11 did I come to define what success meant to me and what I was striving for. Maybe I'm wrong about this. After all, I haven't applied to university yet either. But maybe this is about something bigger than just getting into university. Competition doesn't end once we leave high school or even after university. It's always there. We compete for the highest paycheck, the best vacations, the nicest house, the most power, the happiest life. The list goes on. As humans, we find things to compete for, and we find ways to determine the winners and losers. Being lured into competition will always remain a possibility. Unless we give deliberate thought as to why we're doing the things we're doing, we will be tossed about in life, always pursuing whatever those around us are pursuing. Unless we take time to understand ourselves and what we truly want, we will merely chase after what those around us are chasing. Unless we stop caring so much about what others think of us, their opinions will dictate our lives. So, I ask you, what are you competing for?